from the News Channel 5 Network. This is OpenLine.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to OpenLine. I'm Carrie Sharp. As always, I'm so glad you're here with us tonight. Remember, this is OpenLine, so you are always welcome to call in and be part of the show. We would love to hear your perspective and experience. And tonight we are talking about COVID, the pandemic, and schools. Believe it or not, this is the third school year impacted by this pandemic. We started in 2019 in the spring, where most schools let out early and just didn't come back. And then we had the next school year, 19 and 20, where everything was still crazy. And now we're in the third school year, where again, we are dealing with COVID protocols. Schools are in, schools are out. Are we wearing masks? Are we not wearing masks? And a lot of fighting and a lot of confusion. I have three guests who are in the thick of it right now, dealing with these challenges and obstacles, and I would love to introduce you. You probably know Beth Brown if you have been watching this show for a while, president of the Tennessee Education Association. We're also joined by Josh Vaden, a teacher in Robertson County, and also Paula Pendergrass, a Metro teacher. Thank you all for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
I've just given a little snippet of who you are, but I'd like to dive in. I'll let each of you introduce yourselves to our audience. Beth, let's start with you.
Great. Good evening, everybody. I'm Beth Brown. I'm a high school English teacher from Grundy County, currently on leave from my classroom in my district to serve as president of the Tennessee Education Association. This is my fourth year in office, so I've been in office for the entirety of the pandemic. So it's been a long year and a half.
Oh, I'm sure it has. Josh, what about you? Tell us about yourself and your teaching career.
Yeah, hi, I'm Josh Vaden. I teach in Robertson County Schools. This will be my 10th year teaching, and I currently teach English language arts to 10th and 12th graders.
Oh boy, you got the high school kids. And Paula, what about you?
Yes, Paula Pendergrass, and I am a gifted educator, and I have the privilege of teaching grades K through 4. This is my 27th year, all within Metro Nashville Public Schools. I am actually on release time for this year and the next 2 years as the vice president of MNEA.
Oh, fantastic. I just love having all this experience sitting right here at this table, even remotely so that we can really wade through this topic of pandemic and schooling over the next year. Beth, if you could wrap up in just a few words, the atmosphere that you sense from teachers right now across the state, or the tone, what would that be?
I would say it's anxious fatigue. There's a real of pandemic fatigue. As you noted, we are in our third year impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. No one could have imagined that would be the case. Unfortunately, with this Delta variant and the way that it is manifesting in infection rates among students and educators, there is a rising sense of anxiety and some fear among educators across the state of Tennessee.
Just recently, just the end of last week, we saw President Biden say, really push for more vaccinations. What have you heard immediately from your members, for, against?
Well, one of the things I think it's important for us to realize is that the TA has always advocated for local control. We have been pushing for that since March of 2020, when we were first impacted by the pandemic. Local decision making has been a pillar, a philosophy in our state, and that needs to continue. We're seeing a district in our state doing what is being suggested by the president. In Hamilton County, they're already doing the required vaccines or the mandatory testing. So we've already seen districts embrace that local decision making, which they need to do in order to make the decision to the health, safety, and well-being interest of their students and their staff.
And Josh, I want to go back to you again, and then Paula to you, but just tell me the tone inside your school. Pull back the curtain a little bit for us. What do you sense? What do you feel?
I mean, really, honestly, it's much the same way as Beth describes it. It is a constant tension and anxiety that we constantly go through. It's almost like a day to day. You play it by ear and see how things are going to turn out. And you know, some days they turn out great, and just like every other school day, sometimes they don't turn out so great.
Yeah. Elaborate on that tension for me. Is it mainly the tension between knowing that kids need to be in school after we've seen what the learning loss is, or is it a tension between I don't feel safe being in school as a teacher?
I think a lot of that has to do with both sides of that. It's not necessarily always, this fear of, being there and being safe. I think that my district has done, the best they can under the situation, under this, the current scenario. But, it's just, I feel like thinking about what COVID is doing to not just, districts, but that local level, your teachers, your principals, and, your students, it's kind of, it disrupts a lot of things. And that disruption is really at the heart of so many of our problems.
Yeah. Paula, what about you? You have been doing this quite a long time. Have you ever been in a scenario where you have this anxiety, if you do have it as well?
No, I have not. And Carrie, what I can tell you is that, just like President Brown said, and also Josh, no one could have ever predicted that we were going to go into another academic year dealing with COVID-19. Yeah. And it has been extremely frustrating for many educators as they deal with disruptions in learning. And there's a lot of anxiety as educators see students after student and their colleagues going home, to quarantine. Some are being hospitalized. And, and they've, seen, and heard about different educators dying from COVID-19. So I have never experienced anything like this in my entire, 26 years of teaching. And now I'm going into my 27th year. It's just a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that a lot of us, parents, teachers, staff, general public thought, in the spring when the vaccines came out and in the summer when things looked pretty good, like, okay, full steam ahead, we're back to normal. And then as soon as the school year, really just a week or two before it started, things started to unravel pretty quickly. And no one really felt like this is where we were going to be. Do you think that's true? And it's caused the extra anxiety?
I think that's absolutely true, Carrie. And I think a couple of things that need to be lifted up here. First and foremost, we have to recognize the commitment of Tennessee's educators when we think about what the extreme measures that they have taken over the last year and a half to continue providing education services to our students. But you're exactly right. I've been out across the state visiting educators, and that's one of the things that they raised up was, last year there was a great sense of anxiety and fear around their potential for infection. They started to feel better when the vaccine became available, when infection rates started to decline. But what we're seeing this year is a whole new, this is a game changer. The Delta variant is a game changer because it is impacting students so very differently. It is impacting those who are infected, so, adults too, so differently. And educators don't feel like they have a plan. Last year, they knew if X happened, then Y was going to occur. And that's not what is happening right now. We have constant shuffle in our schools as students and educators go in and out of quarantine. It is a constant state of disruption that is just adding to that general sense of anxiety.
Yeah, I want to get into that because I think that opens a whole can of worms when we talk about the back and forth and the decision making this year. So we're going to take a quick commercial break and come back and try to tackle that. Stay with us for Open Line on this Monday night.